Hello my dudes, this is Kadima with another build video for Lords of the Fallen. This time we are taking things to a whole new level of frustratingly broken power in this game. So, crossbow builds. As everybody probably is aware, they are stupidly broken. And by stupidly broken I mean, especially in PvP, you will just destroy everything without much effort. And on top of not having to try hard to kill your opponents in PvP, you will have a massive advantage against pretty much 99% of the player base, which is long range combat. Everybody plays with weapons and spells, and that's a legit way to play. I've got multiple builds by now. And as you can see them on the channel, they all focus on combining good weapons with good spells from all the schools of magic, Inferno, Radiance, and Umbral, but they all have one thing in common: they are limited by you requiring to be close enough to your opponents to hit them with the weapons and hit them with the spells, because some spells are pretty much impossible to cast without the lock-on. Apart from the Umbral build I've recently uploaded, which has the Javelin, which allows for a lot of free aiming and a lot of firepower from a long range. But with a crossbow, we take this to a whole new level. You will be able to kill enemies, again, especially in PvP, before they even see you. And that is just a massive advantage, especially considering that you will be one-shotting everything. Now, as you can probably already tell by my HP bar on the top left side of the screen, something is going on with my HP pool, and you will figure out immediately what it is. Now, let's start with the build itself. For this build, again, as all my builds, I'm level 110. Strength is at 16. This is a basic requirement for the crossbow we are using. Agility is at 70 because the crossbow we are using scales mostly with agility. Therefore, I've gone all the way up to 70. Endurance is at 20 because it's the minimum requirement I need for this build, to keep using the weapons and the armor pieces that I want to use without going into heavy encumbrance. So as you can see down on my stats, I am just at the borderline of being at medium encumbrance, and that's what I like to stay. Vitality, I'm at 31, although it doesn't look like it. We'll get to there in a minute, as I just explained. Radiance and Inferno have not been touched. Now, this build, let's make it very clear, is not optimized because I'm using my main character, which was created not for the purposes of using an agility focused build, but you can always adapt. That's the good thing about these games, is that you can always tweak here and there. If I was to adapt, and if I had created a focused build on agility or strength, you would see lower numbers on Radiance, and that would allow me to ditch more points into agility, maybe all the way up to 75. And that would help. That would make you dish out even more damage. But as you are about to see, at level 110, 70 is more than enough, especially for PvP, because as you know, I don't have any bosses on this playthrough that I can use to demonstrate the power of the build, so I'll be using my favorite test subject, the guy at the Leprosarium. Now, to the equipment itself, we are using melted Dark Crusader swords. As you can see, it has a requirement of 11th strength, agility, radiance, and inferno. I could easily just put a few points into inferno and get it all the way to level 11, but that doesn't really make a difference because, in all honesty, we are not using the weapons, we are not using the swords. The reason why we have these swords is because it allows us to use the runes on both of them that increase the damage of ranged and throwable weapons. And this allows us to combine 6 runes, increasing our damage with throwable weapons and ranged weapons. Now, per rune, it's about a 10% increase. So this multiplying by 6, we get 60% increased damage with crossbows and bows and throwable objects. As for the rings and pendant, this ring here, as far as I've been told, it increases between 15 to 20% damage with bows and crossbows. So if you have 2 of them equipped like I do, this is another 30% on top of what you already have from the swords. So basically, putting all the numbers together, you have an increase of around 90% more damage. Yeah. Now, let's talk about the central piece of this build, which is the crossbow. We are using the Herwer Delver's crossbow plus 10, which scales C with strength and A with agility. That's why we have 70 points in agility and kinda discarded the strength. As I said, it has requirements of 16 strength and 20 agility. So you have to make sure you have the 16th strength just so you have the weapon and its full capabilities. As for the bolts that you will need for the crossbow, the weighted bolts are the simple ammo type. It costs 3 ammo. They do 974 damage, physical damage, which is great. But unfortunately, this is a pretty hit or miss kind of bolt. You have to hit the target. If you miss, there's no damage. As for the other 2 I'm using the twisted bolts and the explosive bolts. Now, combined, they have 509 attack power plus that comes from this one comes from holy damage, this one comes from fire damage. They cost 10 ammo each, so they are very expensive. But what these do have that this one doesn't have is that they are AoE bolts. So wherever they hit, this one creates an explosion of radiant magic. This one creates an explosion of fire. I'm going to demonstrate what I mean. So if I change to the normal bow, this is what you'll see. It's just 3 normal bolts. Now I need to consume a satchel. If I change to the Radiance bolts, this is what happens. Radiance explosion, which is very OP. This has quite a good area of effect. If you throw it at enemies' feet or just like a wall next to them, as an example, let's imagine there's an enemy here. If I was to hit this wall right here, he's still going to get hit because the area of effect will catch him behind the wall. So they are very strong, and the ones with the fire do the same, but with fire damage, fire explosions. Now, again, these bolts are area of effect. The good thing about this is that you don't actually have to lock onto the target. If you lock onto the target, you just have to press R1 to deploy the bolts. But if you do not want to lock onto the target, you can use R2 and keep R2 pressed, and it will allow you to free aim. You get a little aiming assist, as you can see with that little line that shows up, which will allow you to point. So if I want to throw the crossbows at that tree over there, it's quite easy, and it's easy to aim. It's very responsive. You won't have any problems with this. Now, what does this allow? Because you don't have to lock onto your targets, you have the massive advantage of being able to hit things from a very, very long range. So, for example, that guy over there, I don't really need to aim at him. I can just aim at the floor, and it does that, as you can see. But if I aim at him, well, it is what it is. And you will get so much damage per hit that it's out of this world. As you just saw, each bolt does more than 1000 damage. Now, for boss fights, or for playing against normal enemies in the game, most enemies will die with one single bolt. The big enemies, however, they will take 3 to 4 bolts. Unfortunately, there isn't a way of just throwing 2 bolts. You always have to do 3 bolts. You can't just press R1 and you use only 1 bolt. Every time you press, 3 bolts go out, and that's how the weapon works. Now, for boss fights, you have to keep in mind that if the boss is walking sideways, you will miss. So, best thing to do, as I explained, is to aim at the floor as they walk towards you or as they walk to the side, and you are guaranteed to hit. If you lock on to the target, you are more likely to fail and miss the target, doing no damage, therefore resulting in you having to consume more satchels to be able to recover your bolts and wasting time. So best thing to do is, when doing boss fights, aim at the floor or wait for the boss to walk towards you and position yourself in a way that guarantees you the most efficient line of sight, so you can get all 3 bolts to hit the target, doing high amounts of damage. Now, one thing I want to explain that I haven't explained just yet is the Scornful Effigy. Now, this pendant is very straightforward. It reduces the maximum health but deals additional damage. Now, if I remove this, you will see that my HP bar goes all the way up. So if I put it back, you are pretty much sacrificing half your HP bar in order to do more damage. Is this worthy in PvE? Probably not. If you are playing PvE, I would recommend that you probably try something different. I would suggest, as an option, going with the Princess Sting, which deals additional damage with smaller equip load, and to benefit from this, just use a different set of armor that allows you for a reduced equip load, and there you go, you're good to go. But for me, because I like to be with medium encumbrance, and I am only playing PvP at the moment, I find that the Scornful Effigy is the best option, because this is a crossbow build, guys. We are not meant to be using the swords. Do not use the swords. They will do no damage at all. Sometimes I use the sword just to troll my opponents, just to make a little bit of fun and lead them to a false sense of security. Because when you hit them with the swords, they will take so little damage that they are going to think, oh, this guy does no damage, so even if I make a mistake, I'm alright. But the problem is, the moment they are comfortable enough, I turn around, get my crossbow out, boom, 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 onto the floor, and they're dead. And that's the funny thing about using this build. Again, the other big benefit from this build is that you have the ranged attack, so most enemies will not even see you coming, and you can aim from miles away and cause tons of damage. Especially doing PvP, because the enemies that you invade, the players that you invade, might already be fighting enemies, or they might be just transversing through the map in certain tight areas. So even if they try to dodge, they will probably just roll off a cliff or something. So all you have to do is aim with the R2 at the floor and get the job done. Now, my own personal thoughts on this build before I go into some PvP examples are as follows. Is it fair? Absolutely not. The game should not allow me the chance to one-shot my enemies when I invade from a mile away. Right? We have always had crossbows and bow builds in Dark Souls games. That's more than fair. But I've never seen one that one-shots enemies, even if you don't actually hit them. I don't have to hit my enemies, I just have to hit the floor around them. So as long as I hit the floor around them, they will die. So the build is quite broken, it's quite powerful. I would place it on the top 3 builds, alongside the Holy build and the Umbral build, because this thing is just broken. It's very fun to use, but at the same time, as you are using it for invasions or to fight other players, you will kinda have the feeling of, I am a scumbag, because that most times they will not even see the arrows. You can shoot people from so far away, as I'm about to show you in some examples, that you're just going to be that you are being unfair. And you feel like it's just broken. and it shouldn't be able to happen. But anyway, this is my personal opinion. Of course, you guys are free to think whatever you want about how the game is balanced for PvP, I guess. But this is just my opinion. But now, let's waste no more time. Let me give you some examples of how this works in PvP. Thank you guys for watching it so far. Now, as you are about to see, PvP is the #1 reason why I decided to baptize this as the Call of Duty build. Because this is like bringing a sniper rifle to a sword fight. Exactly. 600 damage per hit. It's not too shabby. It reminds me of the days of Call of Duty when you could just camp with a sniper and do this. And your enemies were dead. While they couldn't even see you properly. It's just broken, man. Anyways, on to the next fight, which is also going to be a Call of Duty moment, if you want to call it that. This is me going down the ladder, and I did find out through the corner of my eye that there's a sword there. And if there's a sword there, check this out. Boom, boom, boom. Dead. It's so easy. I thought the guy would run away, but at this point I'm not sure if he was AFK or not, or if he just had no clue where the damage came from, so I just shot him again from here. The guy cannot even see me. It's just ridiculous. This should definitely not be allowed. But anyway, it's part of the game. Now, for the purposes of this build, because the video being shortened up a little bit, I'm going to speed up things a little. The reason being, it actually took me a little bit to find where the guy was hiding. As soon as I invaded, I couldn't tell where he was. Sometimes it's easy to identify where the host is because he's either taking damage or he's causing damage, so you can see where he is. In this case, the guy was pretty much hiding, which is fine. I have nothing against people that hide. It's actually fun. I find it funny. It's entertaining. So I had to pretty much check every single corner of the available area during the invasion, trying to find him. I looked down, couldn't see him, went back down the stairs, and then that's when it hit me. I thought, oh, maybe he's in that little room down there, and yes, there he was. That's why these enemies were crawling against the door, and he was attacking them through the door, which is fine. I politely said hello twice, got ignored because he was busy trying to kill the enemies through the door. Now, this door can only be made invisible or accessible with the umbral lamp. This causes a problem. I cannot go into umbral while I'm invading, so I am relying on the host to go into umbral, or I can try to take the risk and transverse the gate right in front of me while holding the lamp up. Now, as you probably can imagine, this is a problem. I tried to kill him with the AoE from the arrows, hoping it would do enough damage for him to die and enter umbral, but it wasn't the case. It didn't kill him straight away. I caused 700 and something damage, and he was still alive. That tells me that he was either high level, or he just invested a lot of points in vitality, which is fine. Again, nothing against it. Everybody plays the game how they want to play. If you want to be over leveled, that's your choice. If you want to invest 50 points in vitality, that's your choice. My problem here was because he was hiding behind that gate. It was kind of taking me a while to figure out how am I going to enter that room and expose myself to his weapon without dying. And that's when it hit me. I can actually use the umbral lamp to make him fall forward. And when he falls forward, I can rush into the room, giving me just enough time to maybe kill him. So that was my strategy. I used the umbral, he falls forward, I hold the lamp up, I enter the room, I dodge his attack. As you know, my swords don't work, as I explained in the build explanation. My swords cause no damage, so I'm completely relying on my ability to hit him with the bolts. He enters Umbro, he makes the mistake of following me outside the room, and he is dead. Well, congratulations on your ingenuity trying to hide, but I had the upper hand. On this example here, the funny part is, again, because I cannot enter Umbro on my own accord, all these guys had to do was wait. All they had to do was wait, because they were in a place that I would not be able to access without putting myself at a high risk of being killed. This is because in this area, as you probably are all aware, there's a bridge that is only available during Umbro World, and they were both on the other side of that bridge. I managed to see them walking, so I tried to kill them. I managed to kill the co-op guy. I managed to almost kill the host, but the co-op guy decided to come and check out what was going on, so I just kill him by aiming my explosive bolts to the bridge. Well, at this point, I thought, the host is going to be intelligent. He's just going to hide. There's no way he's going to come and try to revive the co-op. But then I saw his sword, and I just decided to take the risk. And I killed him. Now, because of this, he enters Umbro, so now the bridge is accessible to me. There's no more way he can hide. I did notice that he used his crossbow on me, but you can tell there's a massive difference in damage. Come on, I barely have any HP. I have 323 HP, but then the fight ended with what I predicted at the start of this video. They will just roll off a cliff and die. Anyway, now for another episode of Call of Duty in Lords of the Fallen, you see how far this guy is? I cannot even physically see him. I can only see his name. But all it takes is a little bit of patience, finding the right angle, and GG. How does the game allow this? Crossbows need a massive nerf, I think. Anyway, for the next example of how this build feels like Call of Duty, it's time for another sniper attack. So I take notice that the host is right there at the top. Why do I have to walk to him? I don't need to, so I just shot him from all the way down here. I bet at this point he doesn't even realize that I'm around here, because he's just trying to hide. He doesn't really understand where I am, I think. And by the time he might have understood where I am, he comes down and he dies to another bolt barrage from afar. Fair, isn't it? Now, this is a really good example. Host and co-op friend, they made the mistake of being close together, and when they do, if they are too close, they just both die immediately. GG. That was it. That's all there is to this clip. Fair, isn't it? Anyway, on to the next example. This is a good example of how the build will function at close quarters. It's not ideal, but if by any chance you get surprised like I was by this guy being just around the corner, don't panic. Just try to get yourself enough distance to reload your crossbow, put some arrows in the crossbow, and then just play wisely. I mean, he saw me down here, he knows where I am. I just allowed him to come close enough, I shoot the floor, and there it is. First round is for me. He enters Umbro. Because he enters Umbro, that door is no longer in the way. I allow him to kill that guy to give him a false sense of security. And then when he tries to come and face me again, I just shoot the ground one more time and he's gone. 660 damage per hit. 3 hits in 1 second. That's fair. Anyway, as for the next example, this is why this is a Call of Duty build. But if you play smart, even at close quarters, all you have to do is aim at the floor right in front of you, and you will still manage to kill the enemies. Now, the co-op guy tried to hide behind the boxes. It doesn't work. The bolts will pierce through the box and land on the floor, still killing whatever is in the way. As you can see, I am allowing the host to come close to make him feel that I'm just waiting for him. And then when he does get close enough, all I have to do is release and he is dead. Now, I guess at some point here he thought, okay, this guy is going to one-shot me, so I better run away. Unfortunately, the aim can be a bit tricky sometimes. As you can see, it bounces left and right too much. I think it's because he tries to aim at the enemy, but he's running in circles, and I think, okay, you want to run in circles, that's fine. I'll just shoot the floor. Unfortunately, because of the lag, he didn't die. I reload my bolt. I use the enemies for my own protection. I allow him to get close again before I fire. He gets close, and this is when I fire. 550 per hit. That's 1,500 damage. There's no way you're going to survive that. Anyway, on to the next example. This is Call of Duty at its best again. So I thought that was actually the host, but it's not. It's the sorceress. It's the enchantress enemy in the game that I remembered just stays there, walking about. So I went looking for the host, which just so happened to be down the right through that narrow path, as you are about to see. The problem here is that when you are going around corners, if the enemies happen to be right there, you might be caught by surprise. So this is when you do the Call of Duty moves. You keep your crossbow up, you aim at the floor, you let them do the first move, and as soon as he moves, he's dead. So now that the co-op guy was gone, there he is. There's the host. I thought, okay, this is gonna be easy. I actually had the lock on, and he decided to buff his weapon. Don't buff your weapon if someone's got a crossbow aiming at you, because you are most likely going to die, just like he did. And then I realized, okay, there's no way he's gonna hide around the corner, because if he does, he's just gonna die like his co-op friend died. No, he made the mistake of going all the way down there, where's that Umbro enemy, the Visage enemy, that is just hardcore. He tried to hide behind a tree, bless him, but as long as I see you, there's a chance I might kill you with my crossbow. Now, this is a perfect example of what I said during the building explanation. Do you remember when I said that even if the enemy hides behind a corner, the splash damage, the AoE damage is good enough that it will kill them? You are about to see what I mean. So I managed to shoot this guy from really far away, as you can tell, free aiming, and then he decided to hide behind the corner. Remember, corners are not going to keep you safe, because the splash damage, the AoE is so good, it will still get to you. You need a bit more distance than that. You need a bit more room. Now, this is another example of how Call of Duty works in this game. This guy is coming up the stairs. He probably doesn't even realize I am the invader, and he gets shot straight away. He ends up surrounded by enemies. He tries to run away, but it doesn't do him any good, because it was already too late. He was in my line of sight, and I'm quite good with a sniper. I mean a crossbow. GG. Now, this will be the last example, just because I find it funny how certain players will panic massively as soon as their co-op friend dies. And they just don't know what to do, so they just start running in panic, and I find that hilarious. So here I am invading these two. You can see they are quite next to each other. I managed to shoot both of them. They both die. The host enters Umbro, and he just doesn't know what to do with himself. He actually just doesn't know what to do. I could have killed him straight away, but I thought let's see what he does. So I was actually just trolling a little bit. I thought maybe he's going to try to revive his friend, which he did. He was actually going to try to revive his friend. As you can see, he's trying to get himself around to go and revive his friend, but he's just not going to work. Anyway, you know how this ends, guys. So just watch how he actually nearly manages to kill me due to how laggy connections can be in this game. But no panic, time for Crossbow. GG. Thank you guys for watching. Leave any comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't just yet, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheerio!